Do the voiceover here, Cara. Well, hey, everyone, as Tim Sohn would say. Welcome to the Tim and Jim Show, and I'm joined by my guest co-host, Chris Stone, who's been kind enough to pinch hit for Tim for a few weeks. And then even more exciting, I know, Chris, I know you hate that I said that, our guest today, the amazing Cara Leighty. And it's funny, right? Because we've got our, I feel like David Letterman, right? We got the intern, Randy, backstage. But we've got this is an Atlanta show today, which is crazy. We're all in different parts of Atlanta. Randy, also is from Kennesaw State. So shout out to the Owls. And so here we are. And but we're at our houses. We're not in the same room. And Cara and I were kind of joking on Facebook. It's like, once again, we see each other, but not in person. So we need to do something about that. So Jen Watson, if you're watching, we need to get you as well. We just need to have like a big Atlanta IRL event. I think that would be.
Are the kids still saying IRL?
Well, I'm not a kid, so I don't.
And do we speak the acronym? Like, I just can't keep up. Like, do you say LOL or do you actually laugh out loud? Right? Do you say in real life or IRL? Cara, what are the kids saying nowadays?
I think it's both.
Really? Okay. But you never say hashtag something, right? Like that's like that. You're like definitely.
Depending if you want to be funny, I guess.
Okay. All right.
Oh, somebody said if, right? If, like, that's where it becomes like dad jokes with Jim and Chris, and kids are going, "Oh God, not again, Dad! Just stop, with the dad jokes." but I'm so funny, My kids think sometimes they think I'm like either the guy on The Office,
oh God,
or sometimes they compare me to the dad in Modern Family, like the one that was, the black-haired one that had the daughter and son, with some of the jokes that I say.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
I never watched that show.
Yeah. So that's but enough of that. But yeah, no, but we're excited to have you here today, Cara, and we're gonna do something a little magical here.
Oh.
The click of a mouse.
Let's see it.
We are now in moving background land. So you may notice that the background will start moving. I created this with Camtasia, and it was allowed me to, what I'm doing for those of you from a techie standpoint, created a custom layout in StreamYard. So the video is actually running behind the camera windows. And so it's the logo is just an overlay on a dynamic background. And so I've got a video on YouTube on Fusion Marketing if you want to figure out how you can do this yourself. So Never say never. Chris and I always like to see if we can break the internet. We haven't done it yet. We're working on it. But today we're excited because we're going to talk with Cara about how voice actors can help your business. And
Nice.
now this is something exciting because Cara, you've been doing this, I guess, now for I don't know if it's been a year yet, but definitely several months. And so tell us a little bit about how, I mean, how did you decide like this is something I want to do? And you know, let us know a little bit more about Cara Leighty because we know you were like, and I think you're still doing a lot on TikTok, but
Yeah.
last time you were on the show, we were talking about TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah. So, gosh, I was working on my resume not too long ago, and I was like, when did I actually get started in voiceover? Because technically, on a professional level and serious level, it was probably about a couple of years ago, I decided. But if I'm thinking way back to like my childhood, I've always been into voice acting. As a kid, I used to watch The Simpsons. I was probably too young to watch them, probably inappropriate at the time. Really not as inappropriate as most of the shows out now, but
Right.
I would start like mimicking the voices. I used to mimic Marge's voice. Bart is a very difficult voice to do. I think only Nancy Cartwright can do his voice. But yeah, I mean, I just always kind of had kind of like an interest and love for anything that was visually or audibly creative. So I would make movies with my sisters, make radio shows with my sisters, like on tape and cassette tape. And I kind of like always in the back of my mind was like, oh yeah, that'd be really fun. Never really knew how to get into it. So fast forward, it was like 2006, 2007, and I was dating my husband at the time, and he worked at a television station in Atlanta called AIB. And he was like, hey, do you mind doing this like voiceover thing? And it was essentially for a show that was kind of similar to something you'd see on like Food Network or something like that. But it was like a faith-based one. And so I did like a narration for that. And I was like, that was pretty cool. I really like doing that. And then after that, I had a friend at a radio station in Cartersville, Georgia, asked me, hey, would you mind coming in and doing some sweepers and promos for us? And I was like, sure. And it was kind of like I had graduated college with a degree in broadcast news. So I was like thinking more like, hey, I'm going to work in a news room. And then I finally decided I want to have a family and have a life. So no offense to people that work in news, but basically that's all you eat, sleep, and breathe every day.
Yeah.
And I was like, and it was really at the time the recession hit. So I had to get creative, and I was like, yeah, I'll come in and I'll try this out. I love doing the radio stuff, radio imaging. It was so much fun. And again, that whole idea of like, this is really cool. And they're saying I'm really good at it, but like, how do I get into it? That crossed my mind again. So that was back in like, I think 08 or something like that. And I just, sort of just, went on with life, had kids, odd end jobs and this and that. And then I started to get really big, like Jim was saying, into content creation. So that started to kind of take the forefront. But then of course, after a while, that gets kind of like, ugh, you're putting so much effort. Sometimes people don't see your content and it's just like, okay, this is like something that I loved so much as a kid, making movies. Like, I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to get burnt out on this. So
yeah.
2 years ago, I took like a fast from content creation. So basically I just stopped doing it for a little bit. And I was, I just prayed about it and, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I was like, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, I know that God gave me these gifts and, like I love being creative, like, and I just was stuck. And then once I got off this fast, like I had an idea. I was like, maybe I should go back to school. And I was thinking something like way different, like in the medical field, like,
Oh, wow.
yeah. And I was like, and then I was like, well, you know what? I probably won't get a lot of studying done because I have like 2 kids and I will be stressed out. So I was like, that is not going to happen. And then I happened to get back onto social media, saw a girl that was a voice actor named Kritzia Bajos, and she voice acts like professionally, and she's an actress in LA. and she's the voice of like The Sims. So she knows like the Sim language. Have you ever played that game, The Sims?
I know of it. I've never played it.
I played it.
Like a whole
Well, Sim City, not
yeah. Oh, well,
before The
that
Sims.
was like the precursor to
Right.
Sims is like they have their own language and like it's an actual legit thing. And I was like, this is cool. Like, you know, she did like a duet challenge. I go, oh, I'm gonna duet this and like be a Sim. And then I was like, who is this girl? And I started researching and found out she had a whole like, you know, kind of like a curriculum for voice actors. And, you know, that whole idea of like, hey, I really want to do this, but how do I do it? I was like, okay, I think this is how you do it. So I just started plugging away and taking classes and training. And for the past 2 years have just been nonstop. So
wow.
Yeah. So kind of like, I mean, you know, even though I went to school for broadcast or I made, you know, content and created things online, like, you know, none of what I do now doesn't involve those things. I still use those. I make content. I don't make a lot of content around voice acting, but I do. I do. You know, just funny stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm essentially using all the things that I've learned over the years and just kind of been like, okay, I think I'm supposed to be here. Like this is what I'm supposed to do now. And forever I had no clue. I'm like, it was right here. But I'm kind of glad that I kind of made like a circle, big circle to where I am because I learned through social media stuff, you know, going to social media marketing world and all these different YouTube events, I've learned how to market myself.
Yeah.
You know, as a creator. So then now I'm marketing myself as a voice actor. So, but yeah, so if that's in a nutshell for you, I don't know. That was kind of all.
Yeah, that's an incredible journey. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I sort of knew your story, but I didn't really know, you know, your whole story there, and that's really cool. So you're talking about a lot of like, you know, you found it, right? But it took like it was definitely not a straight line. You know, and I think one of the things we always talk about with people is that, you know, we're not in control, and what you think you know, your vision for what your business is, or your vision for what, you know, your mission is, or your content creator, entrepreneur journey, or whatever. You think it's like this, okay, I'm going to do this. And then you just, and what happens is you stay rigid to what you think it is, right? And then it just, you know, the barricades come down and all of a sudden it's like, I still feel like I'm not here. And you landed in this spot because you were open to kind of like, you know, keep the walls a little loose and kind of like go off road a little bit and do that. But my question to you would be, you know, so many people struggle with confidence to hear their own voice, confidence to see themselves on camera. You clearly have a ton of confidence. Confidence is not your problem, right?
No.
And I've always felt like, you know, a lot of people will say to themselves, well, I wasn't born this way, or I wasn't, you know, I'm not a such and such person. I'm not a techie person. I'm not a confident person. I'm not comfortable, you know, hearing my own voice, like all of those things. Do you feel like you you found your confidence in figuring out this whole thing out because you found something that was fun for you, or do you feel like you put in all of these reps and that helped you sort of break down those walls?
I mean, I definitely think that, you know, a lot of us, you know, and not all of us are pretty like we can have a lot of confidence. Like for me, like I've always been a performer on stage. So that end of things, like I've never really struggled with. But like, but I mean, I was apprehensive, you know, and as I take this journey, like it's definitely proven to be even surprisingly more difficult for me because I am a super extroverted, hyper crazy person. You know, to do more of commercial voice acting, which is serious commercials and, you know, not being so loud and learning that craft. Like it's like it's because I can go like my coaches always tell me like, you know, it's easy for me to be loud and crazy and stuff like that. It's harder for me to pull back. And so that is something like, you know, in this field, is, you know, especially is that has been a challenge for me because, yeah, like you're not going to hear every commercial on the radio isn't going to be like, hey, gotta take this pill, like it's not like, like it's like you got serious like BetterHelp, therapy. Like you're not gonna be like, hey, do you have anxiety?
Like, actually, it's not a bad idea. It's just that might be a good little hook and attention. Like, whoa,
that's right. But so maybe we can get you together with Chad Ia Peterson, because we can tell me she needs to start Chad GPT, and you could be maybe you could be the voice of Chad GPT, right? You could come up with all these like, hey, do you want to know how to make your hair stand up straight?
But yeah, like I mean, it's been like I'm constantly learning. That's the thing as a voice actor, like you don't understand until you're doing it and pursuing it and actively training in it, like how much work really goes into building your craft. And I mean that's essentially anything in life, really. Like if you want to be good at something, like you have to be in a constant state of learning and training and growing. Like you don't just wake up and say, like, that's the whole thing. Yeah. And people will ask me, like, they'll be like, how do you get started? And I'm just like, you train. And I can tell that as soon as I say that, like you take, and I give them resources and I'm like, take some classes through here, take some classes through there. And I could tell that it's like, they're kind of like, oh, and it's like, but that's the whole thing. It's almost like you're going to school,
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it just, and even the best voice actors, like I'm training now with Lori Allen, who's the voice of Pearl and SpongeBob. And she's one of my good friends now. And like, she's training me and helping me with animation because she wants to help me with my animation and character reel. But like, even she trains, like all these people that are successful, like they are still working towards it. So yeah, I mean, I think and to go back to your question, like I think it's all, sure, like some of it is like a natural God-given things that you have, but like being a voice actor, it's kind of like it's really neat because, and I briefly was like, hey, maybe I want to do, because in Atlanta, they're filming all over the place. I was like, maybe I should do extra work because they pay a lot. And I was like, maybe I should get into acting. And then, then I was like, oh, wait, voice acting. Because with voice acting, your voice never changes. Like you get older and it's slightly whatever, but like Nancy Cartwright, who's the voice of Bart Simpson, and Ralph Wiggum, and I think Nelson in The Simpsons, like, she still sounds like Bart Simpson. Like that lady is 60, 70 years old, still can do Bart's voice, and she's gotten older, but her voice never. So that's like it's kind of like, it's really unique field to be in because you essentially like don't have to worry about if you're a woman, I can play a little boy, because my voice can do things like that. Or I can do an old man, or a little tiny kid or a baby, and so I always tell people like it's kind of almost better than just regular acting, to be quite honest.
Yeah, and I love how you're studying the art too. And I think a lot of people, when they get into a niche, whether it's podcasting, live streaming, or even if it's a component of their overall thing, if they're a keynote speaker and they've got a podcast, but they're also an author or whatever, I feel like at some point you have to study the art, right? You have to, and you're mentioning all of these voice actors. Forgive me, I have no idea who any of these people are, but it's clear to me like you're studying the art. You're a lifelong learner. And Russ Hedge, who's on the show, is he's talking about lifelong learning, constant learning. It's really just, especially if you find something like you did, where you're like, this is actually fun.
Yeah, it's super fun. Yeah. And it's not like it, but it is challenging, like I'm in this small booth here. So it's like I have to, especially for animation.
But it's vibey in there.
It is. It's my red room, like from Twin Peaks.
Red room.
Like red room now. So I feel like it's like, I need to grab my coffee and go in there and dance with, I don't know, dance weird, do the Audrey dance. I don't know. Have you guys ever seen that show, Twin Peaks?
Yes.
I'm not a Twin Peaks fan.
My wife is a Twin Peaks fan.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah, like we, as voice actors, like you have to, like, especially with animation, like I have to, like you said, like it's a whole, I'm learning the craft. Like I have to create, scenes in my head, and I have to know, because the producers and the writers, like they give you like, hey, this person's supposed to sound like this and this is happening, but like you actively have to create a movie in your head essentially. And that's something it's been very challenging for me, but I mean, it's a lot of fun though. And I enjoy it. So
Yeah, so I want to say hi to Catherine and Russ, and
oh
Catherine's got a question.
yeah, okay.
Question from the studio audience. What classes did you take to help you find ways to do the voice acting?
Okay. Well, the first class that I took was through Voiceover Camp, which is with Kritzia Bajos, and she has a huge curriculum of voice acting classes. So I did an intro class, which was like $75. And after I took that class, I was like, yep, I'm supposed to be doing this. And then after that, you go down in succession, like you do commercial acting, advanced commercial. I did an improv for voice acting, animation, not through them, but they do have animation through them, and they have several more. So it's voiceovercamp.com, and you can check them out. Or if you're local to Atlanta and you want to go in person, so all of Voiceover Camp's classes are on Zoom, because she started it during COVID. So if you want to go in person, or if you still want to do Zoom, Atlanta Voiceover Studio, they have a whole set of classes. They have an intro to voice acting, they have commercial classes, they have intro to animation, which I took, and like so and so forth. I did they have an intensive VO course that's like 3 months. That's really good. And then I did another intensive one called the Character View, which is finding your voice. Yeah, so any of those, I mean, there's so many though. So I could send a list to you, Jim, if you want.
Yeah.
To kind of like if you wanted to, put that somewhere later.
Right.
I'm curious, would these classes benefit someone who is getting into podcasting or content creation in general? Like, are there learnings that would be applicable across just very specific, or is it very specific niche? I want to be a voice actor, and it's very like.
I think it just depends. Yeah, I mean, if you do an intro class, it's the basics of voice acting. But as a voice actor, the big money maker in voice acting is commercial voice acting. So even though I want to be in animation, that's where you start and where you make your demo. And then, but you have like so many offshoots of voice acting. And yeah, like there's classes for e-learning, there's classes for narration, there's classes for audiobooks, so, and I think there are even stuff for podcasts,
So
I mean,
that kind of leads to this question I had for you, is like, how are you as a voice actor helping content creators and businesses? And you've kind of touched on some of that, right? Because I've thought about it, and I don't know if I have the voice for it, because I'd probably put Chris to sleep. But like,
the buttery smooth sound of Jim Fuse. Are you
books,
kidding
right?
me?
There's all these book authors that they don't necessarily want to read their own book, so it's like that could be interesting to do book readings. And
I can't even tell you, the list of opportunity and jobs in voice acting is just never ending. And that's the whole thing. Like, I mean, as a content creator, I remember being like, okay, this is really difficult. There's so many people on YouTube and I'm competing. Like with voice acting, I don't feel that. I don't feel that at all, because there's jobs in everything. Like you're constantly like, I had one of my friends that I met at Social Media Marketing World, like she wrote a book, and she had mentioned when I first began, she was like, do you want to do the audio for my book? And I was like, sure. So you have like things like you were saying, like audiobooks, like you have like people are now getting into like what do you call it? Like audio descriptions, like on a website, or you have like, for example, for like the blind, that can't see. There's a whole other realm of things like, that they need that we can provide, whether it's just enough, personal sense or business sense, because I am in classes with, like, I have a woman that I do like workouts and classes with an accountability group, and she is blind and she's a successful voice actress. So it's like, they're just so like, there's so many opportunities, like it's endless. And I never feel, maybe like more so on the animation side, like you're always wanting, like you're like, oh, I want to do this, and like, and do a movie and this and that, and I'm like, oh, am I good enough? Like I'm always like, but really honestly, like everybody is like, there's a place for everybody.
Yeah, it feels like there's so many different voices. Like if you don't get a gig, it's not because you weren't good enough, it's because you
No,
weren't necessarily the right fit, right?
yeah,
And it's like, you have a very specific, well, you have there are niches that you animation, character, like all of those things that you specialize in, and you focus that on. There's going to be some gigs you're not going to get because somebody else specializes in the particular thing that they're looking for. I had a long conversation with another voice actor at Podfest. Her name's Jodie Krangle. And she talked about how this industry is not very competitive from that perspective, right? I mean, there's a natural competition. There's people that are there's a bunch of people going for this, one gig, right? That's technically competition. But she says it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like everyone's like, I'm going to beat out that person for this gig.
yeah,
Would you
yeah.
say
I
that's
agree.
true?
It does. Yeah, I would say that's very true. I don't think, just knowing that how much work is out there, like, and all of the work out there for voice actors is really cool. Like, there's like, I mean, you can be, I mean, the AI stuff, not really cool for us voice actors, to kind of take over. But as far as like computerized stuff, or like the girl that does the plane train at the Atlanta airport, I'm like, can she just give me her job? I want to do the plane train voice. Announcements in an airport, and there's airports everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you don't. Yeah, I totally agree. There's really no, and really, like, I haven't gotten to the point where I'm going for those big gigs yet out in LA and the big box stuff. Because I'm building my craft, and I'm molding myself and learning these things. But at the end of the day, like, like, you know, it's all about you. It's your voice. And so there's nobody out there that is you. Same goes for being a content creator in a business.
Yes.
Nobody does what you do except you and the way that you do it. And it same goes for voice acting. And I think that, like, a lot of people kind of are like, well, I'm not good enough, whatever. And it's like, okay, well, work at your craft, like, get better and understand things. But yeah, I mean, there definitely isn't. I feel like it's not as competitive, honestly, as like when I was making content online. Like, I feel like when I was in the YouTube world, like, there was definitely like more like, I have this many subscribers and I've got this many subscribers. And I'm like, at the end of the day, it's like, who cares? Like, what, like, and my husband's like, who is that? They're famous for what?
Yeah,
exactly. Right. Like, so yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with what your friend was saying, because I mean, there's so much work. It's ridiculous. And I tell people all the time, get into voice acting.
Right. So that kind of leads to, you hit on a couple things, but what are some of the different use cases for voice actors? Like, I didn't even think about the fact that the plane train lady is a voice actor, probably,
Oh,
right?
yeah. And it used to be a different person too.
Mm.
Yeah, so like automated, like, when you're on a train, when you hear that voice, when you're in an airport, the announcements, when you are, audiobooks, e-learning, animation, commercial, obviously radio, television. Oh my God, there's so many things, like, video games, interactive. It's like the list goes on and on and on and on. Like, there are just so many opportunities. Like I said, like, and then you can hit the whole thing of like, the disabled, like the blind, like working. There's a whole other network of voice actors that do voice acting for certain companies that help the blind and assist them for things. Like, just, I mean, it's literally there. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. Like, it's insane. And like, when you call like a doctor's office, that's a voice actor.
Mm.
The IVR, like the voice recording. That stuff's really fun too. I actually did that for a job I had way back when. I was like, I'll be the voice for the telephone. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was like, I wish I had, I don't think I could find that recording. I was like, oh man, I should have recorded that. But yeah, I mean, it's like literally like everything. Like, I could even do your intro. I could voice that. That way you got a little bit of,
Are you pitching for business on the show? This is amazing. This is amazing. This is the first time ever, Jim. This is I love this.
I think it is, right?
I love this. We have a sales pitch, ladies and gentlemen, the Tim and Jim show for the first time ever. So that leads to my question. And Jim, I'm sorry, I didn't get the script of the question, so I'm just
we're good.
I have Cara here, and I'm gonna get selfish and ask a question. How are you getting business? Is it referral based? I know you have a really great website and a really spiffy reel that I listened to and cracked up and was like, it was all kinds of varying. It's not just the character animation type voices. There's all kinds of like soothing sounds of, and things going on. How do you go and get business in this landscape?
Okay. The big question is mostly like, do you have to have an agent when you become a voice actor? Is that how you get work? And the quick answer is no, but it doesn't hurt. And so when you start working and you have a working demo and you get a commercial demo, which that is the key in the industry to have that, you are then, opportunities are galore in this thing. So you can head on to sites like Voice123, voices.com, Backstage, Mandy.com, and they're called pay-to-play sites. I am anti-Fiverr. I don't think that's a good site, but people use it if they don't really have a working demo. But as soon as you have a working demo, you can create profiles on these pages and start working. Some of them you can have a free account and still get alerts for castings. A lot of them you have to pay, which I'm very like cheap. Like I'm like, I don't really know if I want to do. So for me, it's been like, I'm like, I'll create all these profiles and then I'm like, I'm still deciding what one I really want to pay for. But basically, yeah, like you could start working whenever if you want to pay, $100 or $300 like a year for V123 or whatever. And then these sites, these are actual casting sites. Or you could do, or like in my case, the person that mixed my demo for me, ironically worked at iHeart Media. And he is a producer. He's been there for like 20 something years. And he kind of, scouts for talent for iHeart. So as soon as he saw me come through, like I wrote to him like, hey, thanks for doing my demo. And he was like, oh, I mean to write to you. I want to add you to my roster. So the key is getting on rosters and getting on casting sites and getting on pay to plays and, finding agents. And that's kind of what I've been in the midst of is writing emails, like marketing myself for agencies, getting shot down by some that are in New York City. I won't say what one, but, just there's like a myriad of like, there's so many opportunities to make money. And so I think the key is to getting on these production rosters. I wrote to the guy from Cumulus Media because I was like, hey, I'm on iHeart roster and I know so-and-so. And he goes, oh, if you're with him, then we're going to add you to ours, and sometimes like, you're like, what? Like that was easy.
It's networking.
Yeah. It's networking and marketing yourself and sending out these emails and cold emails, basically.
Yeah. So you've got a lot of tentacles out there. It's not just you're looking for an agent that could be doing this on your behalf, but you're also individually like, you know what, I'm going to pound the pavement, so to speak. Pound the digital pavement and start looking for gigs. That's
you can't just like sit back and even if you have an agent, like unless you have like you're with this top agency, like they're not always going, like I've gotten one audition through the agent that I'm with in Boston. I've gotten 2 or 3 through iHeart through the roster. So it's like, you can't always depend on, the agency, like you have to actively be trying to find work. Like, and it's just because you sign with an agent doesn't mean that's it. You know what I mean? Unless you are like, I don't know, some movie star celebrity and things like that.
Sure. And
But
going to festivals and social media marketing
yeah,
world and the
exactly.
podfests and the things
Yeah.
like that, where you're going to have, there's a Venn diagram of content creators and voice actors
Oh,
and
yeah.
all of that kind of stuff, being around people that, hey, I know this person. I know this person. Oh, you need a voice actor? Boom, 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 boom. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I guess too, from that perspective, and Chris and I have talked about that with what we're doing with Amazon is, do you also now think like, you know what, I need to go to different types of conferences? Like
Mhm.
going to a marketing conference maybe isn't necessarily the right place for you anymore. I mean, sure, there might be a few people, but it's like,
Yeah.
what do you see in that regards?
Yeah, I definitely, a couple years ago before I started pursuing this, of course, I was going to social media marketing world and because I was doing more of content creation. But I think not this past year, but the year before, that was my last year out there, the last time I had gone out there. And, I kind of was like, yes, this is kind of beneficial. But for me, like I kind of stuck out with the people versus the actual content that was in the rooms and things like that, because like it was more about networking and people, and like Catherine was saying here, it's all about relationships because that's what it is. And I think yeah, I mean, because I didn't go to social media marketing world, this past March I went to VO Atlanta, which is a voiceover conference.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I was like, well, I'm not going to go out to LA or San Diego, because I'm like, sure, like obviously I love everybody with social media marketing world and love helping, but I was like, I needed to focus on like what I'm doing now. And I was able to meet like ton of people and get connections. And that's where I linked up with Lori Allen from SpongeBob, and I'm coaching with her. And I met Donald Duck, Daniel Ross, like he's the sweetest guy in the world.
I love that you said I met Donald Duck, and it's like
Yeah,
the name after Donald Duck. I was like, I have no,
Daniel
but
Ross,
you met Donald
that's
Duck.
him. It's insane. Yeah, he's the sweetest guy ever. So yeah, I mean, just meeting these people and going to those different things, like even like the Podfest, that would be beneficial for me as well. And that's something that I've always like in the back of my head been like, oh, that's probably smart. I should do that.
Well, we know a guy. I think it's gonna be in January next year. They're
Okay.
already starting to do a, call for speakers and stuff, so we'll definitely,
And we need to
do a
connect you with Jody and her network as well,
yeah.
with audio branding and yeah, like at conventions like that, sometimes it's not just about the actual voice acting business that you're in. There are tons of brands that are willing to just give you their equipment to be able to use, and it'll make your craft better if you just do some content that features that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden you're going to have you can't see it, this is outside of the frame, it's a train wreck over here of like boxes and microphones and cables and stuff like that, because it's like, and that helps kind of, it helps things for sure as a content creator. And I think there's more. This is a very niche business. However, I think there are a lot of things that kind of connect with it. Podcasting being one of them, for sure.
Definitely.
And Chris hit on something, Cara, that I think also falls into some of the questions like that Katie have about getting started. Let's talk equipment. Like,
Okay.
I want to start being a voice actor. What do I really need to get started? Do I have to spend thousands of dollars, or can I get away on if you want to call it a low budget, just to get my foot in the door?
Oh yeah. Like and I mean it's very similar to content creation. Like what now you could just use your cell phone to create a video. You know what I mean? Like it's so good like that. But voice acting, sure, yeah, like great mics, yeah, that's awesome. Like makes you sound good. But like if you don't know how to voice act and you don't know the craft, like whether or not it makes you sound good, like it doesn't make a difference. And so, like I started out, my husband got me a microphone a while back, and I don't even know what type it was. Like I'm not like super into equipment, but and I used that and it worked perfectly fine for my training and things like that. Cause you have to remember, like, when you're starting out in this industry, like, it's not like, you're going to take one class and all of a sudden, like, you're going to get hired to do something. Like, it's like, no, like, this is like, it's like you're going to school. Like, you're going to be in classes. It doesn't matter what your microphone sounds like to them, as long as it's, oh my God, there's this one lady that like, that, I mean, God bless her, but man, she wears this like head mic thing. She's like an older lady, but I'm like, and stuff, and I'm like, oh, it's terrible. I'm like,
yeah, those are the worst.
Those
are the worst.
But I mean, if you have like your AirPods or whatever, like, I mean, I didn't even have a mic when I was starting. Like, I mean, I had one because I was starting to make content creation that involved me singing and things like that. But like, I didn't even worry about that. I was like, I use this microphone, like, from my, laptop, because it doesn't matter. And yeah, like, I mean, the industry is like TLM 103, TLM, blah, 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 or all these, Sennheiser, whatever. And they have their standard, microphones they use in the industry. Like, I don't know. The one I did my demo on, like, they were like, do you know what kind of mic? I was like, I don't know. There you go. Oh yeah, that's like a $4,000 mic. I was like, I don't even know. Like, I don't know, like, but I have like a Rode, like NT1 or something like that. Like, it's, and I have like a pop filter in front of it, and actually I kind of have a ghetto setup because my microphone, like, it's kind of heavy. So I have to put like my purse on the other end with like
nice.
It's terrible.
It doubles as a sound treatment function.
I mean, it's just, but yeah, I mean, when you're starting out, don't worry about that. When you're ready to like do your demo, start thinking about that, like, it's just like, I spent 2 years training, like, and that whole time, like, I was not worried about what kind of microphone I was going to have. And yeah, I was in like these discourse and people are like, I got this mic and this mic is cool. And it's like, yeah, I don't really care. And my husband's like, this one's on sale, so he bought it. Like, but yeah, I mean, I definitely agree, Chris, like, just marketing with people, shoot, like, they may even send me a microphone. And then
that's it. And you have to prove yourself.
Like, I have not a Joby, a Switch Pod from like forever ago. Remember those, the Switch Pod?
Yeah. Oh, those are great.
I still have it. It's great, but I like never use it. But like, they were like, here, you get this. And I was like, oh, nice. But yeah, I mean, you just get a little research. I mean, there's so many resources out there to research, like, what is a good beginner microphone. I mean, and really, like, you can go on AtlantaVoiceOverStudio.com. They have tons of resources. They have this guy that did like a ton of their audio stuff, and get in these forums and ask, hey, what's a good microphone? But really, that's not something you need to worry about, like, in the beginnings of your career.
Yeah, we always tell people on Amazon, because that's the number one question, right? Is the microphone, and we don't answer that before we say, what kind of room are you in, and do you have carpeting in the room?
That's the whole,
it's sound treatment, really, before a microphone, because ultimately, whether you have a Shure SM7B, which is a $400 microphone, or you have a $40 Samson QTU, it's like the difference is going to be negligible to someone that really just needs to hear your voice. And as long as there's not a crackle and it's not clipping and all of that stuff has really nothing to do with the microphone itself, as much as it's just like, make sure there's not, it's not a big room that's your voice is bouncing off and back into the microphone. And then eventually you get companies that go, here is a $4,000 microphone for you.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll take it.
Thank you.
I mean, sound treatment is a huge thing. I mean, my husband built my booth back here.
Nice.
And I'm in a essentially walk-in closet, and there's two of these on either side of this room, and they're slanted, so the ceiling's kind of slanted down. But he built out this wall, he insulated it, he insulated the back wall behind the curtain. We have sound blankets, and I have the red curtains because it makes it look prettier, But essentially, like, this is what the inside of my booth looks like, is literally sound. And really, they're not sound blankets because those are more expensive.
Those are like moving blankets.
Yeah, these are moving blankets from Harbor Freight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, sound, sound treated and sound
Yeah.
proofing, that is essential. But you don't have to build one of these. Like I have very successful working voice actor friends that they are still in a closet with their clothes.
Yep.
Like that's the thing. Don't spend your money on training. Don't spend it on equipment first. As soon as you get that training and you start auditioning, then you can start putting back into your business and using that money to better your equipment, and your
such a wise woman. That's great advice too.
Oh, Jesus.
Sage wisdom here on the Tim and Jim Show.
Thank you.
As Catherine Lang says, voice acting doesn't have to have a pretty setup. It just has to sound that way.
Yeah, my friend Rachel, I met her at VO Atlanta in person. We had started voice acting with the voiceover camp, and then like I saw a picture of like her space, and I was like, it looks like when I'm in classes with her, like it's like this whole like super nice like booth. She goes, no, I'm just here in my closet, and I'm like, what the heck? And I'm like, it works. I mean, it works for her. It's fine. It sounds perfect. Like it's so funny. Don't spend it on training. That's what I say. Great. Like don't waste your money buying a mic at first. Like that's dumb. Like
well, this has been amazing. If you guys want to connect with Cara, she's on TikTok and IG at Mrs. Leighty.
Mrs.
Leighty. So make sure you go check her out there. And then I guess what would you say people should think about if they want to work with you? I mean, reach out to you there or
and my email's on my website, caraleghty.com. And just, if you have any questions, I mean, feel free to message me anywhere. I mean, I'm here to help everybody else too. I mean, we're all in this together. We're all in this together. But, I mean, I don't care where you reach out to me. Like I always have people, I mean, I can't tell you how many people reach out and like, how do I get into voice acting? Well, and then I give them resources, and some of them are like, oh, okay. And some of them are like,
I gotta work.
Yeah.
It costs money.
It's work, but it's a heck of a lot of fun. Like, it's not normal school. Like this is actually cool school. So,
right.
Like it's a lot of fun. And anytime you guys have any questions, like,
If you need a podcast intro, here's your gal.
And, I'm totally down. Yeah. I mean, I don't care.
So next week we're gonna dive a little bit into SEO with friend Lauren Gaggioli, who was actually met her at Podcast Movement first, and then she came to Podfest as well. She's great. She's from Seattle, Washington, so it'll be
we're gonna get grungy next week.
Yeah, we're gonna get grungy.
Man. You're gonna Pearl Jam it out.
Yes, and but no, this has been fun, Cara. It's great to get to talk to you. We gotta stop just doing it virtually or in San Diego. We gotta,
right?
We should all meet in Woodstock or something.
I know. We just need to set it up and
Woodstock.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Oh, Woodstock, Georgia.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like
Woodstock.
Well, because I know that Jen Watson's in Woodstock, so maybe we can get her to get out of the Weather Channel.
Does she have a pool at her house or something, or you have a pool?
I don't know. We'll find a pool. We'll make one.
I've got a pool.
That's
there
true.
Are ducks
Chris has a pool with ducks.
There are ducks in my pool.
There?
It's like the like Sopranos. Like ducks showed up, and they show up every year, and they lay eggs and have little ducklings, and they swim in my pool. I know.
And then Catherine's invited us to Lake Guntersville in Alabama. She's not too far away.
All right.
Alabama. Yeah.
Southeast represent.
Party at Catherine's house. Ooh.
Yeah. I know. Be careful what you ask for, Catherine. You may just get it.
We may just show up today. No,
that's right. Well, thank you again. Thank you for everybody watching, whether it's live or on replay.
Yeah.
I will get the links from Cara, and we'll create an article on the Tim and Jim Show LinkedIn company page.
Okay.
You can get more info about how to be a voiceover.
I'll type all that up for you and send it. That way you can like work with me and we can have fun together.
That sounds great. All right, everyone. We'll talk to you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.